here who offered a question wanted to know specifically how each of you feel about a program very near and dear to Governor Easley's heart, and that's the More at 4 preschool. Let's talk about that for a minute, Mr. Hagan.
Well, the one thing I think we're doing is creating too many new government programs in education. And what we ought to do is concentrating on making the ones we have work. And I'm convinced that the first 3 years of someone in school, we have to concentrate on reading and writing and arithmetic, because if you can't read after your 3rd year, there's a good chance you're going to be a dropout. And our dropout rate in the state of North Carolina is outrageous. And by the way, the Lieutenant Governor and Richard Moore both serve on the Board of Education board. They actually brag about it in their commercials, which amazes me, because our dropout rate and the people not graduating is its highest level at this point in time. The second thing that I'm a big advocate of is pouring more money into the vocational schools of our high schools. When I went to high school, Ragsdale High School in Jamestown, North Carolina, we had a great trade school program, because I'm convinced, and I know it's not politically correct to say, not everyone should or needs to go to 4-year colleges. Frankly, some of the better jobs right now are available in the labor market if you learn a trade. And we went to Ragsdale High School, you went right across the street to Guilford Technical Community College, where you learned electrical trade or a mechanical trade or a drafting trade, and nowadays you can learn biotech trades. And that's what we need to get back to, because the biggest problem we have in economic development to try to bring jobs to Western North Carolina and other parts of the state is we've got to find a qualified labor market. And if we don't have people that are graduating from high school that can first read and second know a specific trade, you're not going to get employers to come to this area of the state or any other areas of the state. And that's what I'm going to emphasize. Integrating education with our labor needs.
Thank you. Judge Owen?
One of the best quotes I've heard in the course of this last year of campaigning across the state was from a retired assistant principal, a Republican down in Rutherford County. We were talking about the dropout issue and how 1 out of every 3 of our students drops out. And she said, they don't drop out when they're 16. They drop out in the 3rd grade. They just stay in school until they're 16. Early childhood education is the key. Whether it's More at 4, Smart Start, Bright Beginnings, Head Start, we've got to understand, if we're going to have an educated group of citizens, it is absolutely critical, if we're going to compete in a world economy, not just this year, but over the next 10, 20, 30 years, we've got to give these kids the best possible start in education as possible. Right now, the programs are voluntary, and they are geared to only at-risk kids. There's a large segment of our population where the children don't qualify for these early childhood education programs, and parents don't have the money to put them in the private schools or the church schools. We've got to understand, we've got to get these kids engaged as quickly as possible. We've got to get them enjoying and being stimulated by education, so that when they go out of the elementary phase into middle school and high school, we're not worrying about them dropping out. We're concerned about which college they're going to be going to.
Thank you. Senator Smith.
Let me just say that the only reason I'm running for governor is because I want to improve the quality of people's lives. And I can't think of anything that's more important than a child to get a good education. Why do I believe that? Because that's my life story. If I would not have gotten a good education, I wouldn't be here. I've seen growing up in an orphanage where my mom and dad worked and taught how a good education makes a difference in a child's life. Getting a good start in school is key. Now, the problem we have with More at 4 is that we have duplication between More at 4 and Smart Start. Both of those programs, while they may have some difference, fundamentally try to get kids ready for school. What we need to do is, in an effective and efficient way, I believe, merge those programs together and use the money in a more efficient way to make sure that children are ready for school, that they learn how to read. If you learn how to read, the world is open to you, and every child needs to have a chance to do that. And by using government funds for those children whose parents are not meeting their needs, And by using Smart Start, we can make sure that every child has a good start in school and has a good chance to get an education so that they can compete on a level playing field and achieve the American dream.
Thank you.
The Smart Start, the No Child Left Behind, all these other programs, they sound great, but what is the end product that they graduate? Only 2/3 of that is the case. You're losing billions of dollars of invested taxpayer money, hard-earned money, invested in early childhood education, which is good. And I don't think any candidate in this race on either side is going to oppose early childhood education. But what are you getting in return? Are you getting a good education system at the back end? The answer is no. I think we all agree on that. What I want to see is this lottery that was supposed to be the cure-all for all of the problems of the education across the state has landed on the table with a big thud. And Western North Carolina is the biggest loser in this. Now what we need to do is go back and revisit how we're divvying up lottery proceeds. County commissioners need to have flexibility to build schools, and they need bond debt relief. We need to divide up the lottery proceeds on a more per pupil basis so that Western North Carolina children can be winners instead of those folks that are left beside the road. Continue the emphasis on early childhood education, but for goodness sakes, don't have a system where we forget those that are in middle school, junior high, and high school. I don't want to give up on someone who's in the 3rd grade that's having trouble reading. I'm not going to give up on that student in the 3rd grade or the 4th grade or the 5th grade or the 7th grade. We owe it to our children to complete their education and they get a diploma and a skill.